How does the knight move?
Shit. Oh, my rook. What am I doing?
The rook! The bishop! The queen!
The first piece we'll be examining is the king. The king is the MVP of the chessboard. Why? Well, if you lose him, you lose the game. As such, the king is of crucial importance. We cannot afford to lose him. But we also have to understand fully how he works. So, the king has restricted movement in the sense where, although it can move anywhere it wants, in any direction, however, it can't move that far. It can only move one space, meaning the king from e4 can go to d5, it can go to e5, it's chilling, but it can't really do that much. It doesn't have that much range, you know? The next piece we'll be examining is the queen. The queen is an absolute boss, the most powerful piece on the board, and worth around 9 points of material. So, the queen's the queen, absolute boss. This is because the queen is like the king. It can move in any direction she wants. She is overpowered though because she can move as far as she wants. Unlike the king, where it's limited to just one square, making it one of the slowest and most inefficient pieces, the queen can go as many squares as she wants. This means the queen can obliterate pieces, gobbling them up left and right. Nothing is safe around the queen. The queen can absolutely dominate the board, hence why she's so important to games. One small limitation of the queen, though, is that she can't jump over her own pieces. This is not allowed. Okay, you can't do that. But other than that, the queen can pretty much roam around the board. For example, the queen on e4 could easily zoom over to a8, a4, d4. The queen has so much range. It is obscure. Hence why the queen is such a critical piece and plays a key role of chess game.
The rook!
We're talking about the rook. As you've seen in the Gotham clips, this piece is often sacrificed, but it's actually a very straightforward piece. So, how does the rook move? The rook is very simple. It just moves up and down and side to side. Pretty much it. It's just a weaker version of the queen, basically, because it can't move on the diagonals. But other than that, it works the same as a queen. Meaning, it captures the way it moves, and we can see that in 2 examples. And then also, it can't jump over pieces, just like the queen. Can't jump, can't capture. Same deal as the queen. And it's worth 5 points of material, making it a moderately strong piece. Now we'll be examining the bishop. So the bishop is like the other part of the queen, other than the rook. It moves on the diagonals, strictly on the diagonals. So this makes the bishop slightly less powerful than the rook, valued at around 3 points. It's a solid piece, and it's a minor piece. The difference between a major and a minor piece are major pieces, the queen and the rook, are more powerful than minor pieces, knights and bishops. So the bishop is worth 3 points, a solid piece. The next piece we'll be looking at is the other minor piece, the knight. So the knight is probably the most versatile and tricky piece to understand on the board, as unlike the queen, rook, and bishop, it follows its own set of rules. So, what makes the knight so unique? Unlike the bishop, the knight, and the queen, the knight is solid as it moves in an L shape. Now what does this mean? It means it moves 2 squares in one direction, 1, 2, and then it moves 1 square in the other direction. So if up, then it goes sideways, and if sideways, then it goes up. Okay? So basically by following this logic, we can see that the knight can move 2 squares up, 1 square sideways, or 2 squares up and the other way sideways. Then the knight can move 2 squares sideways and up or down. He can move 2 squares down and over, or 2 squares down and the other over. He can move 2 squares to the side and down, 2 squares to the side and up, 2 squares up and then to the side, and 2 squares to the other side, hence giving you the knight's range. Now the knight's unique also as it can jump over pieces. So for example, if there's this pawn in the way, he can leap over that pawn and go 1, 2 over and complete his maneuver. This is because it would be a bit unfair for the knight to get blocked by a pawn like this, seeing as you could argue that it could move 1 sideways and then 2 up, which would make it just too complicated. So yeah, the knight can jump over pieces. Furthermore, the knight captures the same way it goes. So here the knight can capture the pawn freely. Pretty much summing up the knight, which is worth 3 points of material, equal to the bishop. The final piece we'll be examining today is the pawn. So the pawn is the weakest piece, valued at 1 point. Now, the thing with the pawn is, due to the fact that it was so weak in the past, they had to give it some buffs. So, firstly, pawns on their home rank can move 2 squares or 1 square. So, pawns in general, they just move 1 square. If it's on e4, it moves up to e5. But pawns have the unique ability that when they capture diagonally. Very nice. But the thing is, though, this causes pawn traffic jams. These pawns can't move. Now, granted, pawns on their home square may move 2 squares if they wish, or they could move 2 squares, for example, and the other could move 1 square. That's perfectly legal. However, once you've moved 1 square, you can no longer move 2 because it's not on the home rank. So that's pretty much it with the pawn.